The Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up to the mountain. And after he sat down, his disciples came to him. And then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Please be seated. The Gospel story that I just read is the beginning of a very important moment for Jesus. This is his big sermon, his big kind of coming out moment, if you will. Jesus' ministry has just started. He's gotten a little bit of reputation. He's done some healings, and he's gained a little bit of following. But this is the first big, huge public address, the first sermon that he's going to give in front of a multitude of people. It's the time when he gets to give his first big public first impression, so to say. And I'm sure you guys can realize how important first impressions are. You mean, obviously, you only get to make them once, right? And first impressions are important in establishing what kind of a relationship, how people are going to see you and view you. We tend to fret and worry often when we go into job interviews or we meet people for the first time, especially important people, especially important moments. And that's the kind of moment this is for Jesus. This is his big event where he's going to announce who he is or what he's there for, what's going on. Therefore, I think it's kind of interesting, since it's this big moment, and it's his first big sermon, that he starts the way he does. He begins by talking about who truly is blessed. But he does it in a very confusing and awkward way. He says, "Blessed are those who mourn, those who are meek, those who are hungry and thirsty, those who are merciful, those who are peacemakers, those people who are reviled for their faith, people who are persecuted. Those are the people that are blessed." And I'm sure the people that are hearing this are kind of scratching their head thinking, what is this? That doesn't make sense. Those people aren't blessed. What are you talking about? What kind of life is that? You see, from the very first moment when Jesus is talking to the crowds for the very first time, when he's making his first big impression, the very first truth he seems to want to communicate is that there's a very big distinction between the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of this world. The kingdom of this world has got it all wrong when it teaches us about what is success, what does it mean to lead the good life, what does it mean to have God's favor, to be blessed. They're going to tell you if you're wealthy, or if you've had great achievements, or if everybody praises your name, or people worship you, then you're blessed. And Jesus wants to say, no, the kingdom of heaven is very different. In fact, it's almost the opposite of the kingdom of this world. The people who are blessed are very, very different than what you might judge or expect. And in doing so, Jesus seems to challenge our allegiance. In fact, he's going to, all throughout his sermon, going to say, you need to make a choice. You need to choose. Which kingdom do you want to be a part of? The kingdom of this world, the kingdom of heaven? Which kingdom is going to have your allegiance? Which kingdom's rules are you going to live by? Which kingdom are you going to serve? It's an interesting way to begin talking and introducing yourself to the world by telling them you got it all wrong. I think the best part of this beginning is the very fact that Jesus is really challenging the way people think, trying to confront them help them to understand. You need to stop listening to what the world is telling you, because it's just not true. Back in the 1980s, as I was growing up, I had this favorite Christian artist. His name was Chris Chapman. Maybe you remember him, maybe not. I'm not sure if anybody ever even listens to his music anymore. But he had this song, and it was called More to This Life. And the song went like this. It began like this. Today I watched in silence as people passed me by, and I strained to see if there was something hidden in their eyes. But they all looked back at me as if to say, life just goes on. The old familiar story, told in different ways. Make the most of your own journey from the cradle to the grave. Dream your dreams tomorrow, because today, life must go on. And then the chorus kicks in and he sings, but there's more to this life than living and dying. There's more than just trying to make it through the day. There's more to this life, more than these eyes alone can see. And there's more than this life alone can be. It's a very poignant song, very powerful words about how we get trapped in living by the rules of this world and saying, this life is all about what you can gain, what you can grab for yourself now, what you can achieve, how you can look. And there's so much more to this life. And it seems to me that that's precisely what Jesus begins his big moment with, trying to tell people, hey, there's more to this life than you realize. There's more than living and dying. There's more than following the rules the world sets before you. There's so much more. Today is All Saints' Day. And today when we remember those who have passed, those who have died, those who have gone on to heaven, we remember not just the people in the past year, but many people who have touched our lives. It's not supposed to be a day of mourning, though it is a day when we're often very sad, because we feel that which is missing in our lives. But it's also a day to remind ourselves of the point that Jesus is making. That those people who are blessed are not necessarily the people that the world tells us. One of the mistakes that we often make when we read these Beatitudes, the opening to the Sermon on the Mount, is that we think, okay, that means basically whoever suffers now, they're going to be blessed when they die and they go into heaven. And it kind of makes us out to be masochists. And that's not what Jesus is saying. He's not trying to tell us you need to suffer more now in order to get better rewards later. Because Jesus is very clear when he says the kingdom of heaven is now. He's speaking his now back then when he lived. Jesus ushered in the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is not something that waits for us in the future. The kingdom of heaven is in the present. It's already established. And the kingdom of heaven is here, and we are forced to make choices about which kingdom do we want to be a part of? Which kingdom do we want to have our citizenship in? Which kingdom do we want to be devoted to? And the choices aren't about the future. It's about today. It's about what values we want to live by. It's about what promises do we want to hold on to. The promise that I just need to get everything I want for today because nothing is important in the future, or the promise that we have that God is with us and always will be with us. Perspective is a hard thing. And I think that what happens to us often is that we forget about the kingdom of heaven. We get entrapped and we get focused and overwhelmed by our lives here in this world that we forget that our citizenship really isn't here. And we start to make decisions and we hold on to truths and promises that are not in the light of heaven, but they're simply all about living and experiencing life in the moment, even when death comes into our lives. One of the most important promises that we have is that there's more to this life than the physical life that we experience here on earth. There's so much more. And the blessings that God gives us are not something that only happens in the future. It's something that happens in the here and the now. You'll notice that with each of these blessings that Jesus says, blessed are those who mourn, who are meek, those who are peacemakers, for they will, for they are. What they experience. There's something that they get in the here and the now, not just in the future. And what happens is, too often, we allow the circumstances that we experience in life, the pain, the suffering, the death, the loss, the disappointments, the failures, we allow them to drive a wedge between us and God. We say, God loved me, if God's promises were real, then none of this stuff would have happened. And of course, God hasn't promised us that life will not touch us, that the world will not have an impact on us. God has not promised us that we will live in these lives that we have now forever. God has promised us something altogether different, that no matter what the circumstances happen in this world, they cannot take away the blessings that God has given us. So even when we are persecuted, the blessings cannot be stripped away from us. We still get to experience the power of God now and for all of eternity. We still get to experience God's love, which changes us now and for all eternity. And even though we are separated at times from the people we love, we still get to experience their love and their presence in our life all of eternity. Because there's more to this life than just living and dying. There's more to this life than the goals and the accomplishments that we put before us. There's so much more. Today is the day that we remember. And I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves, what are we to honor and to remember for those who have passed away? Is it that they had big houses, that they gave us money, that they did incredible things in their lives? Or is it the lessons that they left behind us about how they experienced God and how God cannot be controlled in your life? Maybe we need to look at how they were merciful, how they were peacemakers, remind ourselves how they were meek and how they hungered and thirsted for righteousness. Those are the memories, I think, that we need to hold on to. Not necessarily how many races they won, how many victories they had, how many times they were able to buy a new car, or how many times they were able to take that vacation that everybody else dreams of. It's those life lessons about how they experience God despite the circumstance of our lives that I think are the most helpful for us to remember. Today is also the day we're continuing our 75th anniversary celebration in our stewardship campaign. 2 weeks ago we looked at and as we look at stewardship, remember, stewardship is this idea that we are stewards of all that God has given us. And too often we limit stewardship just to thinking about our money. And this year we wanted to examine stewardship as something far bigger than just how we handle our finances. So a couple weeks ago we examined how we are stewards, not just of the money God has given us, but of God's image that God has implanted in our lives. And then we looked at how we are the stewards of the Reformation, this idea, this truth, that we are always needing to be reformed, to be remade, to be nudged back closer to God, because our tendency is to wander away. This week, I think we need to expand our understanding of stewardship to include the blessings that God has given us. We are stewards of these blessings, not blessings that are going to come in the future, but the blessings that God has given us today. Blessings that aren't meant for us to hoard or to use so that we can have a comfy and cozy life. Blessings that God gives us so that we can allow others to experience God despite the circumstances that we are in or they are in. One of the best ways that we can be stewards of God's blessings is to remember that we are not citizens of this world, beholden to the rules of this world, living out this life as the world would have us live, but instead we are citizens of heaven, living out under a different set of rules, experiencing the blessings of God that the world cannot take away, knowing that the circumstances of this world only allow us to experience the power of God more and more, day by day. Amen?
Amen.
Let's stand for our song of the day.